Well, thank you guys so much for joining us tonight. We are excited to get started and excited to have you on our See Where ACE Takes You event tonight as we go ahead and discuss career paths available to ACE graduates outside of teaching. So tonight we're going to hear from a few alumni who have used their ACE experience to find success in fields like business, medicine, and engineering. So to give you a sense for our structure kind of before we begin, we're going to start off with some introductions. I'll ask a few questions of our panelists, and they'll be specific to their ACE experience and current roles. And then we'll invite questions from all of you who are here attending and joining us tonight. So when we get to that point in the program, I'll give a couple instructions on how to, go through about the question process. But for now, I just recommend that you keep your screen in speaker view so that you'll be able to see each panelist clearly throughout the event. And we can go ahead and get started. So thank you guys so much for joining us. All right, so we are going to just go ahead and start off with a general introduction. So we'll just kind of go panelist by panelist. If you guys just share who you are, where you're from, your ACE placement, and kind of your teaching experience from ACE, and then kind of go and talk a little bit about your current role and what you're doing today. So Iona, do you mind kicking us off with that?
Happy to go first. Hey, everyone. My name is Iona, and I'm originally from San Francisco, but served in Tampa when I was an ACE teacher in ACE 21 and loved it. I taught English in high school and taught actually for 5 years after ACE. So I really loved teaching in high school, went back to my old high school and taught, but I've recently made a little bit of a switch and I've started a Master's of Science in Nursing program. Actually back here in South Bend, I'm at St. Mary's College. Doing their new nursing program. So I can talk a little bit about like why that switch happened, but that's where I am now and sort of where I've come from.
Awesome. Thank you, Iona. Paul, do you want to go ahead and go next?
Sure thing. Hey, everybody. I am Paul. I am ACE 23. So I did it in 2016 and 2018. I was in New Orleans teaching high school math at the Academy of Our Lady, an all-girls high school. And after ACE, I went and then got a master's in statistics. And now I work as a data scientist in IBM's marketing function. And I guess I'm from New Jersey and I currently live in New York City. So that I moved from New Orleans back up northeast, and here I am today.
Awesome. Thanks, Paul. And then we'll go on to our last panelist of the evening from a very exotic location, it looks like. Jimmy, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself? Thanks, man.
Thanks, Tice. Yeah, I'm Jimmy. I'm from Boston, but I did ACE in New Orleans. Taught actually at the school, the brother school to Paul's school, Archbishop Shaw, and I taught physics and Latin. I moved after ACE, so I just graduated ACE 27. Moved after ACE to Nashville, although today you get to meet me here in Arkansas. I am on a site at a job finishing up, actually. Had some troubleshooting issues with some of our equipment that we're finishing up here, but I could tell you more about the job a little bit later, but yeah, that's where I am now.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Jimmy. So that'll be our panel tonight. And I'm just so excited to hear some more about their experiences in ACE and the work that they've gone on to do afterwards. So we'll get started with our first question then. And this one's going to kind of deal with the path to ACE, kind of coming from more of a STEM and business background. So we'll start with Iona again. My first question is just, did you always plan on going into a career like the one you're in now? So nursing for you, Iona. And if so, what compelled you to complete a program like ACE that is somewhat unrelated at first? And if not, how did your ACE experience help you determine your new career path?
Yeah, I've been asked that question a lot recently because I just started nursing and everyone's like, oh, did you always think about that? But if you ask my high school self, I always wanted to be a nurse, and ACE was actually the detour, like teaching was the detour. And there were a lot of reasons that happened. I was taking nursing prereqs. But someone gave me the great advice not to chase a career or a job or any kind of role in that way, but to find the people that inspired me the most and do whatever it was they were doing with them and just learn and grow. And I found those people in ACE as a senior at Notre Dame, and they were just like, every person I met just was consistently like more and more amazing, not because they were flashy, but because they were so committed and so excited about the work that was happening in these schools all over the nation. So I just knew that 2 years in the grand scheme of my life was a not, not a huge sacrifice, and I had nothing but time. And so I was really excited to commit to the ACE program and loved it so much that I ended up teaching. But teaching and nursing are somewhat similar fields, and I found myself more going towards nursing now. But if you'd asked me, yes, that was kind of part of the master plan, but ACE just made so much sense as a stop along the way in terms of exploring a career that appealed to me, but mostly just being a part of this amazing community, because that's what I found in ACE. People talk about who are your lifetime friends, are they your college friends? But for me, like, my lifetime friends are my ACE friends. And so I was just so grateful for that, like, incredible community that I found, and incredibly rewarding work for 2 years. But really excited to be on the nursing path now and feel very prepared by that.
Oh, yeah, that's wonderful. Thank you, Iona. And so what's kind of, I guess, led you back into nursing after doing ACE and then teaching for a few years after that?
Yeah, good question. I think I'm sort of in a different stage of life, and we're thinking about, having a family, and that call to nursing really does feel like it's gotten stronger over the years. So it's not so much that I'm running from teaching, but more running towards nursing. And for many of the same reasons that I enjoyed teaching, it's a really like person-centered profession, and it's really hands-on, and it's really about relationships and that kind of thing. But I think there are some parts that appeal to me just in terms of the flexibility of nursing, especially if you do have a family. So it's making sense here as a pivot point, but many of the same things appeal to me about both career paths.
Oh, great. Thank you. So we'll go back over to Paul then. So Paul, what about you? Did you always plan on going into a career in the business world and kind of statistics, data analytics? And if so, why ACE along the way? And if not, how did ACE kind of help you discover this is what you wanted to do?
Yeah, it's a good question. And I feel like of the options, yes and no, the answer for me is no. I knew that I would like to do something with math, hence why I was a math teacher for ACE. Quantitative fields were always my favorite in school to study, and also just to geek out on outside of the classroom setting. But I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do. And so for me, ACE became an appealing option primarily, or at least in part, because of the service aspect of the program. I knew that, like Iona said, 2 years in the grand scheme of your life is not that big of a percentage. And to be able to spend 2 years giving back from an education that I had just received, that I considered a pretty high quality education, giving that back to an underserved community, under-resourced school, it seemed like a no-brainer. And I also knew that it would come with the foundational formative experiences that would help me figure out what I wanted to do from there, whether it be teaching, which was a legitimate possibility for me, or something else. And I think that 2 years was 2 years very well spent in strengthening my skills that could then be transferred from teaching elsewhere, if need be. And yeah, I wouldn't really trade them. I think that having made the decision to do ACE rather than going straight from undergrad to either my master's program or my job definitely gave me kind of a leg up in my skills generally.
Oh, that's awesome. Thank you, Paul. And then we'll kick it over to Jimmy. So Jimmy, same question. Always kind of the engineering route, and then if so, why ACE? And if not, how did ACE help you find out engineering?
Yeah. I mean, I definitely always thought I'd be an engineer of some kind. I grew up as a big Lego fan, still am a big Lego fan. And that was really my route into engineering. And yeah, so, going into undergrad at Notre Dame was that engineering was great experience there, but never felt like a particular industry calling my name. But really felt drawn towards more service opportunities. I did things like Notre Dame Vision, which is a summer program, and was really attracted to ACE by the people that I saw doing it, especially the guys in my dorm. Stanford Hall had really a strong presence of ACE interns, which I became one of in my senior year. And it was just really like, those are the kind of guys I wanted to be like. And that's like, yeah, they really pushed me to consider ACE as an opportunity. And then Father Nate Wills also was one of the first priests I met at Notre Dame, and so his involvement with ACE was just kind of another reminder that like this is a great pro those great people. The other thing that attracted me to ACE was that I could still kind of use hearing. I could teach physics. I liked Latin. I could teach Latin. Like these are things I liked coaching. I like sports. I could coach. Like these are all things that I could do as an ACE teacher. Um, and so I felt like this is a great way to do something serving others, like Paul was saying, while still cultivating some of those personal interests and um, yeah, getting to connect with a lot of really good people amongst the ACE peers, but then also the good people that I met in my ACE school, my colleagues and my students, really good people. I'm glad that they were kind of part of my life. Um, so yeah, still even coming out of ACE, like finishing ACE, I was a little bit unsure where I wanted to go with things, but I kind of had the feeling that like this is my chance to pivot to something more, you know, actually engineering, because I really kind of felt the pull to use those skills in a more kind of concrete way. Um, and so that drew me to this new job, which I forgot to mention it in my intro, but I'm now a forensic engineer. My company works on car accidents, reconstructing car accidents. So you find me today next to a road, looking at the site of a car accident that happened like a month or so ago. So don't worry, it's not a gruesome scene or anything right now. But I think this job also just kind of uses a lot of those interests that I cultivated as an engineering student and in ACE, and really kind of I get to like solve puzzles basically for a job, which is kind of great. I'm also learning a ton, which I feel like a student again, which is another great thing. I think ACE reminded me how fun it is to learn, even though it can be really hard to teach people that it's fun to learn. Um, so yeah, sorry for the kind of roundabout, rambly answer, but I think ACE kind of yeah cultivated a lot of my interests and allowed me to serve with those interests. And I think this job I have now is still a way that I can do that as well.
Oh, no, that was wonderful. No need to apologize, Jimmy. So yeah, thank you. It seems like there's just a lot of great answers about, the opportunity to give back, the people in ACE, and the skills that, you guys have gained from your experiences. And so I want to take a second to kind of hone in on those skills a little bit more. So our next question kind of goes to the path beyond ACE. And just if you could each take a minute to say a word about how your ACE experiences have been beneficial in your current position, and how those skills or perspectives that you gained from ACE have translated to the world after. So Iona, we'll start off with you again, if that's all right.
Yeah, happy to. So on a purely technical level, I can already tell, even though I'm still in nursing school, there's a lot of education that happens in nursing. It's just kind of one-on-one with a patient, right? You're recommending changes to lifestyle, but they also need to understand their meds. So I can anticipate already ways in which my teaching, like what I've gained from being a teacher, will help me meet every patient where they're at and sort of understand their strategies. I mean, we probably won't be doing like a turn and talk or paper passing procedures, but just like a spirit of like understanding what it means to teach someone something in a way that they'll actually like resonate with it and retain it. But I think more profoundly, like nursing is a human profession in the same way that teaching is. And I just know that all the lessons I gained about like how to be with people in stressful times, in joyful times, like when you walk with high schoolers through high school, like you are just there for the ups and downs of regular life, and you become a mentor, and like all those skills I think help you meet people as a nurse or as a physician or whatever in medicine. Like it's the same like joys and stresses of life, and you're really just like because what I learned to love about teaching was being there with people in the trenches, and that's what I hope to also do as a nurse with people. I mean, I want to do labor and delivery, so like very different, I think, than teaching high school, but so much of what I did in ACE is going to be so translatable to that. And just I'll say a word about like living in community too, because I think you learn a lot sort of being trained as a teacher, and you get your Master of Education classes, and all of that is helpful. But what you learn just from living with other people, for me, it was just the four of us. It was a really intimate community, and I just love those people so much. But you just learn how to be flexible, and you learn how to be like a friend in a like genuine kind of way, and just walk with people. So can't say enough about how ACE just like made me a better human being, like truly, honestly. And I think that's translatable to any profession, and I'm seeing already ways in which like I'll be a better nurse for it, certainly.
Wow. Yeah. Thank you so much for that, Iona. Paul, what about you? How have your ACE experiences kind of translated to the business realm?
Yeah, I mean, I think first and foremost, the soft skills that teaching provided me with is the skill set comes in handy a lot in a technical profession as a data scientist. A lot of the people I work for or work with are pretty big introverts. They're not big on communication. They're not big on giving presentations, things like that. And so coming from a teaching background, I've kind of become the de facto person on my team to raise my hand to give presentations when we finish modeling something with data science and we have to explain it to a non-technical audience. That's a pretty one-to-one reflection of the skill set of teaching, is explaining something a little bit more rigorous to an audience that is brand new to the concept. So it's a skill set, excuse me, that I find myself pulling from every single day. The other thing about teachers versus, I guess, corporate business people is that teachers are across the board more punctual. They are more professional. They're better at making split-second decisions. People that I work with now love them, but you know, they'll walk into the office half an hour late with coffee in their hands, and like they still get their work done. But I feel like teaching as an experience made me a more robust professional, in the sense that I know when to bring myself to work, and how to manage my time to get everything that I need to get done, which I probably would not have experienced in full if I wasn't a teacher, if I had just gone straight into just kind of a corporate lifestyle. And then the last thing is, when I was in grad school after ACE, the skills that I got from ACE kind of afforded me opportunities that I wouldn't otherwise have had. I think because I was in a big grad program and there were leadership opportunities that were coming up. And I feel like, again, that soft skill set, that ability to communicate my ideas and kind of bring my full self to what I was doing, that led me to get these leadership positions among the student body in my grad program. And yeah, I think that it's just compounded. My skill set has compounded my opportunities and what I've found myself able to do in my career since ACE has ended.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Thank you, Paul. And I got to tell you guys, Paul was 15 minutes early to this Zoom call. So he's not lying about the punctuality. He's meaning what he says here. So that's great. Jimmy, you want to go ahead and close us out with, how have your ACE experiences been beneficial in your new role out in the field?
Yeah, I mean, really echoing a lot of things that Paul and Iona said, but like especially that point about communication. Engineers kind of have the stereotype of being introverts, and I certainly would consider myself an introvert. But having the ACE experience, I am perhaps the most extroverted amongst my team, and the like a big part of our job is communicating with lawyers, for insurance companies, basically, to communicate what do we find at the scene, what do we recommend based on those facts and evidence. So a lot of that communication skill, even just a lot of the skills that Matt Closer taught us in the ACE science course about using evidence to back up claims and stuff like that, like those kinds of skills that I'm teaching students, I'm now using and thinking about as I'm doing it. Yeah, so just communication is really about, and be uncomfortable sometimes. Sorry, as the car goes by. Be uncomfortable sometimes, in front of a group talking. And another big one, frankly, is flexibility and adaptability. You see me right now. I mean, the sun's setting. I wish I could show you a better Arkansas sunset than that, but there's a tree line. I started work today at an ungodly hour, and I'm going to be finishing work today at a dark hour again. And that's kind of sometimes how it goes. Like we had some issues with some equipment today, and things didn't go exactly the way we had planned, which sounds like every day of teaching. And just kind of being able to adapt to those situations, adapt to schedule changes. Just being flexible in that way. And I think one last thing, if you don't mind me going on, is just working with people very closely. My team here is, I think, 8 of us in the Nashville office, and we go out in pairs to do our work for the most part. And so I'm spending a lot of time with the same people. We're getting to know each other. I'm learning a lot from the veteran engineers. But it reminds me a lot of living in community with ACE and being able to find ways to connect. And we're in long car rides sometimes, and what do we talk about? We talk about food. We talk about family. We talk about home, like things that the same kinds of things we talked about in the ACE community. Like we're just getting to know each other. I mean, that's just what it is. But it's just like I have a lot of experience now because of ACE, like really intimately getting to know people that I didn't know at all before I lived with them and worked with them. So that's a lot there, but yeah, a lot of skills that transfer just into how I'm working and living my life now.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jimmy. And I think our next webinar series should be called Getting to Know Jimmy Ryan Intimately, and just having 6-part series of you talking about food, friends, and family, and all those things over and over again. But awesome.
Sign me up. Yeah. Definitely.
So these answers have all been great, but we definitely want to take some time to allow those of you who are joining us tonight to ask some questions of your own. So how this will work is if you just want to go ahead and raise your Zoom hand, and then I'll call on you. Once I call on you, you can just go ahead and unmute yourself and ask your question, and our panelists will do their best to answer. Yeah, go ahead, Andrew.
All right, so my question can go to any of the panelists, but what would you say is your greatest joy being in the ACE program?
My first thought, Andrew, was community dinner. And our community, like I said, there were only 4 of us. Someone talk, sorry. Is there some feedback?
I don't know. All right, go ahead, Iona. I think you're okay.
Oh, sorry. Maybe Jimmy's trying to jump in.
I think he is. Yeah. We'll get back to him.
Okay, yeah, I definitely want to hear what Jimmy has to say, but there were only 4 of us, and we decided to cook dinner, like community dinner 4 times a week. And it seemed like a lot at first, but that was like the foundation of our community life together. And I just can picture us in our house, like debriefing the day, like all cleaning up together. Sometimes we'd be at that table for like 2 hours just talking. And I don't know, I can't imagine being a teacher without being a teacher for the first time without those 3 other people to come home to. I just don't know if I would have made it, And if I had, I just don't know that I would have had half the joy and perspective and humility and all that. So I loved teaching, but I think what made all that possible was just having those people to push me in terms of faith, but in terms of just who I was, bringing out the best version of myself, even at my worst moments. It was just, I was very blessed when it came to my community, and I couldn't be more I just love them, friends that feel like family, and so many people had that experience in our ACE cohort too. So.
Awesome. Thank you, Iona. Jimmy, Paul, either one of you guys want to take a stab at that one too?
I was gonna let Jimmy go, but he just disappeared from my screen, so I don't know if it's
No.
still here. But yeah, I loved my community just as Iona did. I can't say enough about them. I was at one of their weddings earlier this year. I'm going to another one in December. They definitely impacted my life in such a big way, and I wouldn't be the same person that I am today if it wasn't for them. But to just add another angle to it, I also really enjoyed the experience of fully immersing myself in my community that I was placed in. I might have had an easier time because I was in New Orleans, which is a more well-known city than maybe like Mobile, Alabama. But nonetheless, I was still able to meet some of my best friends still to this day, who I keep in touch with very frequently. I go back and visit sometimes. They were my coworkers at my school. They're around my age as well. They just didn't do ACE. They were New Orleans natives. Participate in the local culture, attend things like confirmation for my students, learn about the city, learn about its history, learn about my students' families. All of that immersive aspect of the program is much different than I would imagine a more traditional route to teaching would afford you. Like you could just go become a teacher and then just live your life and be a teacher. But with ACE, you're encouraged to and enabled to do the things that kind of provide you a greater context and kind of push you out of your comfort zone, but in a way that is the best for you and facilitates a lot of growth. And I think that that was at times, alongside the community, was a really joyful aspect of the program. So thank you for that question, Andrew. I think it's a really good one.
Awesome. Yeah, I love that answer, Paul. And I think, yeah, is very indicative of my ACE experience as well. So I'm glad to hear you say that. All right, we're going to let Jimmy back in. Let's see, as he's joining, happy to take other questions from the audience as well. Yeah, go ahead, Elizabeth.
Hi. I'm just curious if you could speak a little bit to maybe some of the challenges you faced while you were a fellow, because I feel like I was going to ask about maybe favorite memories from it, but I feel like you guys have said a lot of positive stuff. So I'm really interested in hearing maybe where you guys had some more challenges, like in academics or like in any area, like faith or community. I'd be super interested to hear.
Yeah, that's an awesome question. Thank you, Elizabeth. Yeah, and any of our panelists are free to hop in whenever they're ready.
Yeah, I can go first here. I think that, I mean, there's the challenges of being a first year teacher, which is not exclusive to ACE. I think every first year teacher is kind of swamped in this new experience of being the only adult in a room of children, and having to go through and lesson plan things and grade things and learn how to manage your time and not lose your like sense of self as you reckon with the fact that you exist in relation to these people as a teacher and nothing more. But without getting too deep into that, there's also the community aspect, like you brought up, Elizabeth, and I think that was an adjustment for me. I know that I just agreed with Iona that it was the best part of ACE, but it also posed a lot of challenges. You're placed with people, you don't get to choose who you live with, and you might have a lot of conflicting habits. These can be the smallest thing, this can be a little bit more significant, but for example, like I shared a room with one of my housemates, and our first year, this is the stupidest story, but we were getting ready for work to leave to go to school, and we were brushing our teeth, and I was letting the water run, and he would turn it off to save water, presumably, and I would turn it back on because I wanted to be able to rinse my toothbrush, and it just was very. It was like a small little spat, like a little moment of friction between us about should I keep the water running when I brush my teeth or not, and how big a deal is it really? And those little things add up, and it's kind of like, yeah, the community is hard, even though it's a source of joy. It's also a source of some friction sometimes. So that on top of all the responsibilities of being a teacher, it can create sort of just like a underlying tension. But having said that, ACE provides a lot of resources for you. There's a lot of like designated community time, we had community prayer, we had community meals. We had like an advisor who would come visit us a few times and make sure that everything was going smoothly. And we could also contact them whenever we wanted in case there was something that we couldn't resolve on our own. So those things they do exist. They're not, I'm not going to say that they're like super common, but it probably varies community to community, but yeah, they're there.
Great. Thank you, Paul. Iona, it looks like you unmuted. Did you have something to add to that?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm really glad you asked that question, Elizabeth, because ACE was the hardest 2 years of my life. So I think it is good to talk about those things. And I think the first thing is like, it's just a lot of hours. Like it's your whole life while you're down in Tampa or, and I remember writing on my application to ACE, like, I'm not looking for a job. I'm looking for a 24/7 vocation. And I wrote that and it sounds great, but did I know what that meant? Like, probably not, and it was just like, there were days when I was up at 1 a.m. like grading essays because they had to be done. And I also had to plan for tomorrow and I was getting up early and, it's just, to be a good teacher, especially in the beginning, just requires like everything you've got basically. And I think that was like a beautiful thing that brought out the very best in me, but it was really, really hard, like in the moment, like it, you take hard classes in college, but you really only have to worry about yourself. And then all of a sudden you're a teacher and like all these kids have all these things going on and you're not sure if like your lesson on the comma is what they need to be learning, like you want to meet them in their like real, stuff they've got going on. And so sometimes I don't know, there's just a lot of emotional weight that you definitely take home and it definitely like you carry it on your heart all the time. But in some ways, like that's what makes it great too, it's like, what a gift to have a job that, like matters so much, and it's like, there are teachers and there are so many millions of students, but like every single one of them matters so much. And that's just a lot to carry, and feeling like you're not good enough because you're just a brand new teacher, and you're just trying to do your best and you still made a bad quiz and, like all those things, like struggling with like your own insecurity. But like at the end of the day, like you just go through the ringer emotionally and all that kind of thing. But obviously I think it was worth it. But yeah, no, don't let anyone tell you that it's easy or like it's just going to be like loveliness and joy all the time. I think it's a lot of joy, but it's definitely like really, really hard. So yeah. Happy to chat more about that, even offline, if you have specific questions about what was hard.
Awesome. Yeah, that was very well said. Thank you. Thank you, Iona. And so I think we have time for one more question from the audience, if and you guys have another one. All right. Yeah, Mike, go ahead.
Yeah, so I guess just sort of for somebody who was in your position and sort of thinking about some other industry career beyond ACE, what's, I guess, one piece of advice you'd have when you're making that initial decision out of undergrad, thinking about taking the 2 years to teach, even if that's not what you're thinking of beyond it, versus jumping right into some maybe not so related career?
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you for that question, Mike.
Can you all hear me? Okay, great. Sorry, it's getting dark and I had some connectivity issues as well. But that's a great question. And I think kind of to the point Iona was making about the amount that you kind of take on in ACE, something to really consider is are you willing to commit to that? And I think the students deserve someone who can commit to trying. I'm not saying that I was perfect. I'm not saying you have to be perfect, but like commit to trying to be the best that you can be as a teacher for those students, because like that's 2 years of their real education, and they need the best, or they need teachers who can try their best. And like as much as you can consider any role after ACE, like while you're an ACE, like, are you willing to make that commitment? And that was a big thing for me that I thought about a lot. Is like, I had to remind myself over and over again, like, why am I doing this? And like, there's a lot of good reasons that I was doing it, I think. But like, knowing that why, and that's how I committed to the struggle of planning and grading and teaching and planning, grading and teaching and all the things like that. Just happens a lot of stuff at once. But yeah, sorry, that's all a lot to say. It's like, ask yourself, are you willing to commit to trying this thing, knowing that it can be a lot.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you, Jimmy. And Iona or Paul, do either of you have any advice that you wanted to add on as well?
I've got one thing on a more technical level. I can't imagine an employer in any field looking at your resume and saying, oh, you spent 2 years teaching in an under-resourced school. Like, you probably should have done something. You know what I mean? Like, any employer will be like, oh, tell me about that. Like, what was that like? And I don't know. I just come back to, like, it's 2 years and it's free. Like, the only thing you're giving up is time, and like, the benefits are extraordinary. So I would say, like, it was a no-brainer, even looking back. But I totally understand there are reasons to get moving on other paths and go quickly, because a PhD takes 6 more years, or med school is another 8, or whatever it is you're looking into. But I still think even med schools now don't want people right out of undergrad. They say, go do something, and then come back to us when you have a little life experience. So I think the investment you make in yourself in ACE is extraordinary, and you really get like a reality check. Like, go live in a community, that may not be like the one you grew up in. Hopefully it's not, because you're displaced. And I just think that has, very intangible benefits. So I would say go for it, but obviously I'm biased.
Awesome. Thank you, Iona. Yeah, I think it's a great point, and I'm glad you brought it up. So I think these are all very great questions. So thank you all for asking them. And again, just thank you to all of our panelists for joining us tonight, and sharing their wisdom and their experiences in ACE, as well as how those have influenced their career paths now. And thank you to all of you who attended tonight, for coming and listening and asking your questions. It was really great to see you, and we're so excited that you're interested in learning more about ACE. So on that note, moving forward, we are going to continue to have more webinars this semester. Those will be roughly every other Wednesday. So there'll be more information to come on that. That information is all posted on the website as well. And if you guys did have more questions that you didn't get the chance to answer tonight, please, I'll send my email in the chat here in a second. And I believe you have it if you registered anyways, but please don't hesitate to reach out, and we'll be happy to get you an answer to those. So thank you again for coming. Let me chat out my email real quick, and that'll do it for tonight. Thank you again.